Hello, I'm Alisa from School of Liberal Arts, Sukhothai Thammathirat Open University.
And I'm Jay. Welcome to Culture Me, where we talk about cultural issues and differences. If you have any questions or comments, please email us at stoucultureme@gmail.com, or you can find us on Facebook at Facebook.com/stoucultureme. And don't forget to like us.
สวัสดีค่ะวันนี้ก็เป็นรายการที่10นะคะในรายการ Culture Me นะคะวันนี้เราจะพูดกันถึงเรื่องของความแตกต่างระหว่างวัฒนธรรมของประเทศไทยแล้วก็สหรัฐอเมริกานะคะอาจารย์เจ today we'll talk about cultural differences between Thailand and the US.
Yes.
And you are from the US.
I am from the US.
What are your impressions about differences since you are sort of fresh from the US?
Well, not that fresh. I've been in Asia for over 7 years, and I've lived in Thailand for over 4. So there are many cultural differences.
That's just something that hit you or impressed.
Right. What I wanted to.
Impressed.
There are many things you can read in guidebooks and read on the internet, and those are good. Those are good to know. But today I wanted to talk about things that my Thai friends and I talk about that I've noticed about Thailand, that they've noticed about me, that you really don't find information about on the internet. No one really, except there are some, but it's more on travel forums or expat forums. So I wanted to talk about some different stuff.
What are they, John? The first one you like to mention?
Karaoke.
Karaoke.
Yeah, we say it weird. In the U.S., they usually say karaoke, which I don't know why they pronounce it that way.
You don't like it?
No.
Personally, or most of the
Well, I personally
your impression.
don't, but also most Americans hate it. Most Americans hate it. So yeah, sometimes it's awkward because we want to hang out with, we're invited by people, and they're like, "Oh, let's go to karaoke."
Yeah, it's
and
a fun
right. Well, we want to
activities.
In Asia, it is. It's considered a fun activity, and a lot of people enjoy it, and that's fun. And often we're invited to go with someone, and we would like to hang out with them, but we don't want to go to karaoke. We just don't enjoy it.
We want to enjoy their company,
Exactly.
but not enjoy singing.
Exactly. So sometimes if you invite someone, they're not turning down you; they're turning down the karaoke.
Ajahn, what about addressing people? How do you call people? You always call Mr. and Miss or
No,
what?
only when you're a little kid and you're meeting your parents' friends or your teachers, you call them Mr. and Mrs. when you're a child. But after you're an adult and working, most offices are on a first name basis. And even if it's the CEO, you say, "Hi, John," and just by the first name, without titles.
Ajahn, what about doctor, nurse, or professor like me? Do you call professor
There are
J or what?
Yes. You can, and that's fine. That's fine. You can, call, but it's only a few exceptions, like doctor, professor, and sometimes nurse. You say Dr. Smith or Professor Smith or Professor J.
But not teacher J.
No, but not teacher J. It doesn't make sense. I can't tell you why. I can't tell you. I can just because it doesn't make sense. You can say Dr. Smith, but you don't say Lawyer Smith. Professor Smith, yes. Teacher Smith, no.
Ajahn, what about other profession like cook or driver or accountant?
If especially
What we call chef, isn't it? Chef this and chef that. To mean the cook?
Not to their faces.
Oh, okay.
Not like you can you're referring to them, but not addressing them. When you're addressing someone, if you just called them by their job title, in the U.S. it sounds like they're not a person, that they're just this job, and it sounds very rude.
Okay, but you have if you happen to hear this from a television show or anything,
Yeah,
it's just some
there's a
unique about that program,
exactly
not
exactly
not
there's
common.
there's a famous show called Will and Grace, and one of the characters, her name is Karen, and she's rich and she's self-absorbed and she doesn't really care about anyone else, only herself. And her cook she calls cook, and her driver she calls driver,
Without the name.
without a name. And even if even with a name it would be about the same. But it's funny to watch on TV because it's so rude. It's so rude, and she's so selfish and self-absorbed, and so it's funny, and so you'll see that on TV, but it's to be funny. It's to show that the person is rude.
Ajahn, what are other things that you find different or about in household thing like air conditioners, refrigerators?
Many people who visit and or live in Thailand, one of the first things they notice is on refrigerators and air conditioners, there's still the manufacturer's stickers. There are stickers on them, and it's just a difference because in the U.S., like the first thing you do, it's like this automatic. It's like we're robots, and the first thing we do when we have a new refrigerator is remove the stickers. It's the first thing we do. Before we put food in it, before we do anything, before we plug it in, we take the stickers off. And it's just funny because there are some expat forums where people ask questions and talk, and that comment in question comes up at least once a week. Someone asks, why are there stickers on all of the air conditioners, and why are there stickers on the refrigerators?
Ajahn, what about parking?
Parking is totally different. In Thailand, people back into parking spaces. They actually back in, and Americans always pull in. And in the U.S., the only time cars are ever backed in is when the valet parks it.
Really?
It's the only
Because
time.
back into parking is like when you leave, it's easier.
But backing in is so hard. It's harder because you're backing into this small
We lack
space.
parking space, you see. and people will park in front of you, to block you. So if you when you want to get out, then it's difficult.
You can't do that in the U.S. You can't block someone.
Man, you have plenty of space.
Well, some people do it, but their car gets towed away and they get a big expensive ticket. But that's another thing. In Thailand, people if they block someone, they leave their cars in neutral, and you just push it out of the way.
Yeah.
But you can't do that in the U.S. If you touch someone else's car, you could really get shot,
Really?
like with a gun. Not kidding. People get really angry if you touch their car. So if you go to the U.S., do not touch anyone's car.
Okay.
It's not in neutral, and you can't move it. You can't
This is
move it.
new to me too. I never noticed that.
Yeah, I had lived here for a couple of years and before I saw that.
Ajahn, and you are a potato chip fan?
Well, okay, it's a guilty pleasure. I have to admit I love potato chips. But when I was first in Thailand, I'd gotten some potato chips, and I was trying to open the bag, and I couldn't get it to open. I was in the U.S. You take the bag, and in the middle of the top, you grab on each side and you pull apart gently, and it opens. But if a bag of potato chips is made in Thailand, it doesn't open that way. And so anyway, this man saw me, and I kept trying to open it, and it wouldn't open. And he looked at me like, "Oh, you poor stupid person! You can't even open a bag of chips." So he came over and he took the bag and he pulled at one end and just pulled down, and it opened so beautifully. But Western chips don't open that way. You could so it would be the opposite if you go or if you buy imported chips here in Thailand. They're not going to open the way they do if they're made here. You have to do it the Western way.
Next time I have to notice that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
The
It's interesting.
differences. Ajahn, you always have visitor to your house, and
It's an American thing. We like to entertain at home.
are the compliment, when your friends come to your house?
Well, at first I didn't know it was a compliment. I had several friends tell me, your house looks like a hotel. And I was like, oh.
You don't like that?
Well, if you say that in Western culture, we say that about people's houses, but we don't tell them that to their faces. It means that your house is not personal and it's generic, and it looks like anyone could live here. That it's just not personal, not personal. And so it happened a few times, and then I talked to a friend, and I was like, I cannot believe she said my house looked like a hotel. And she was like, what? That's good. And I was like, no, it means that it doesn't look personal. And I think my house looks different and has its own style. And she was like, no, it just means that it looks really nice and that you have, a lot of well-arranged furniture, and it just looks nice.
So what should you say, Ajahn?
Just, your house is beautiful.
Okay,
or I like your house.
As simple as that.
Exactly. Your house is beautiful, or it's really nice, something like that.
Ajahn, again, we come to this staring. I mean, you are stared a lot by Thai people.
Yeah,
I mean,
I get stares. I get stared at a lot.
maybe because you're different.
I guess it does. It doesn't bother me as much as it did because I've been here so long, but it does bother a lot of people because in American culture, if you stare at someone, it's really rude, and the person you're staring at thinks, "What's wrong with me? What do I have something on my face? What's wrong?"
So we have to be careful when we look at other people.
Yeah, just don't continue to stare. Looking is fine, but not just glaring for a long time. It makes people a little uncomfortable.
Ajahn, and this, if you're going to shops or restaurant and they give you change and receipts, are there any difference that you are aware of?
And no one ever talks about this. No, I mean, aside from me and my friends, on the if you're reading guidebooks or anything, no one ever talks about it. But when you go into a shop in the U.S., and you're paying, okay, you give them the money, and then when they're giving you change, first they'll give you your change back, the bills and the coins, and then that give your while the receipt is printing out of the machine, that's when they do that, and then you have a few seconds to put it in your wallet, put the change in your bag, and put your wallet away, and then they either give you the receipt or they put it in your bag, and so you just take your purchases and go. But in Thailand, they have the change, and then they wait till the receipt is printed, and then they put the receipt on the money, and everything's so neat and pretty, and then they put the coins on top, and it looks
on
like
a little tray.
Yes, and it looks like a present. It looks like a cute present because it's so neat and it's so pretty, and you're like, wow. But the thing that it takes a time to get used to is I would kind of freak out because I didn't know what to do with all of this stuff. And, there are people behind in line and they're waiting. But I have this money and I have this receipt and I have these coins and I have my packages that I'm supposed to take. And so it's all of this stuff that you're supposed to do at once, but we're not used to it and we don't know what to do. And so I would get embarrassed. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I have all of this stuff to do. And so now I'm getting more used to it. And I kind of just dump all of the stuff in my bag really quickly and then grab my purchases and go.
Yeah, I do that too.
Because at first I would just stand, and I think people behind me are like, what is this stupid guy doing? He's just standing there staring at the money.
Sometimes you never thought of these little things that, makes people, see the differences.
Yeah, you don't think about the little things, but often when you're in another country, that's what you notice the most are these little things,
And what about these touts again?
That's really
how do you spell that again?
Touts, and it's really kind of a British term, and it's the people who stand outside of a store or a restaurant. It's very rare to see that in the U.S. They just don't really have them.
Maybe in the tourist area, John.
There are some tourist areas that do have them, but again, it's very rare. I think in my whole life in the U.S., I may have seen 3 or 4. It's just not done.
Like in some of the very big mall or they have these people when they have promotion or things like that. They have people coming to give you the gift, and,
right?
And
in Thailand,
try to drag you into that store.
Yeah, in Thailand, it's fairly common, and people they'll have a person outside the restaurant, beside the menu. But for an American, if someone's standing beside it, an American is actually less likely to go over to it. The touts just make Americans uncomfortable because they're not used to it. They don't really understand why that person is there. It's like so yeah, it's just it's a complete difference.
And this is also like some of the salespeople as well, isn't it?
Salespeople are very different in Thailand. They're much more aggressive than in Western culture. Americans really like to shop without being bothered and just to look around and in quiet.
Maybe they like to please you, to offer the service, to take care of you.
I know what they're doing, but unfortunately, it doesn't work. It has the opposite effect. Actually, to quote one of my friends, I had a friend who visited in Thailand, and he went back home, and he in an email, it wasn't this only this quote, but in an email that he wrote me after he returned, he said, "There were so many things I wanted to buy in Thailand. If only I had been left alone long enough." Because it just made him so uncomfortable that he left the shop, and it's just different. It's just different. One more quote is there's a famous advertising executive, dead now, but he was very famous in the U.S. And he's playing with the word language to mean not just language but also culture and way of doing things. And he said, "If I'm selling you something, I will speak your language. If you are selling me something, I expect you to speak my language." Yeah, if I'm the customer, I want things done my way.
Okay, that's very nice too. No, it seems today we have talked about little things, but very of great importance as well.
Sometimes they can be. The potato chip bag seems maybe silly, but let me tell you, I was really embarrassed. And so if you're eating are going to eat a bag of chips in another country, I hope you're not embarrassed like I was. Pull from the middle. Pull from the middle.
I think this way we can be cultured person and sensitive or sophisticated when we see something different, we can react properly.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us.